It's interesting. In terms of what Arsenal needed to improve, I spoke to a journalist this morning who said that he believes Arsenal are going to go in for Ivan Toney. Of course, that will be a January move. His feeling is that personal terms have already been kind of agreed in principle in terms of conversations have happened between representation, and he's up for joining Arsenal. The kind of money they're going to look to offer him would suit, he'd be happy with. They're looking like Ivan Toney could be the next guy they bring in, but it will be in January. We know that's a great signing because I think me and you both rate Toney highly.
Fantastic signing.
Is that too late for Arsenal this season, or should they be thinking more? But having him is better than signing up a striker now who's not as good as him in the medium to long term. How do you look at that deal?
Well, as the deal on face value would be fantastic business, but it is too late. You're halfway through the season then. Man City could genuinely, Man City could do the treble again. I genuinely think they will. They're not, Man City they're not even in gear one yet, mate. They're not even in gear one. Like, and Jeremy Doku's gonna be an unbelievable player for them. And so is Nunes will be a good player. But if Arsenal carry on with this experimenting stuff up to January, where I'll be honest, mate, I'd go and get a striker in now. This is where you got to use your scouting network, right? Man City plucked out Julian Alvarez. Brighton do it week in, week out, bringing players in, right? And everyone wants to make a Brighton signing until it comes down to making a Brighton signing. There will be forwards out there that Arsenal can, I don't know any off the top of my head, but this is why you've got to have a scouting network. If they carry on like they do now and bring Toney in January, for me, that's too late. They need a striker right now. They have to. They can't.
So I do get that. I do get that. However, there is a however here. Let's just say, like, for me, Toney's better than Ollie Watkins. So I'm a player you've named already in this show. So I understand having Ollie Watkins for the next 4 months will help because you might get more goals. But Ivan Toney's better in the medium to long term. I think Toney would be a better signing than Vlahovic. I think he'd be a better signing than.
Yeah, but then do you wait the 6 months and then hope that the teams around you?
But I think you do. So an example would be when Liverpool got to a Champions League final the season they bought Van Dijk in that January. If they'd have had Van Dijk for the whole season, they may have been much closer to challenging for that Premier League title. They finished 25 points off, but their form once he came in was on par with City. But so the argument is they could have waited. They could have gone and got a different centre-back than Van Dijk. But if he wasn't as good, the next 2, 3, 4 years may not have been as fruitful for them as a football club. I understand everyone wants to win in the here and now, but sometimes, like, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. In the sense of, imagine you go, we want Toney. We think Toney's our number one target, the best option, but we want a striker now. So they go for a Vlahovic. And Vlahovic scores 7 goals all season and then flops the next 2 or 3 years. And then Toney joins Chelsea in January and is banging in goals. It will be, I think if he's your number one guy, as this journalist this morning told me he is, I think you wait. Because as much as we all want to win in the season that we're in, I don't think you have to also think football's a chess game. It's not drafts. Sometimes you have to look 2 or 3 moves down the road and go, hang on, but what's better for the club? So I think you have to get the balance right. Look at City. City's a great example of this. And it's a bit of confirmation bias, but imagine when they didn't get Harry Kane, they went and bought a substandard version that did okay, which meant they didn't then get Haaland. They waited. They waited that year. And I know they went on to win the league title that season because they're the best team around. So they've got a little bit more, there's a little bit more leeway in their decision making. But the practice was right. I think you should, if Man United, for instance, were told now, look, you can get Amrabat's in, got him. But you can get Gravenberch now, but there's a guarantee of Frankie de Jong in January. You wait for Frankie de Jong because I think he's superior.
Yeah, you do, but you are right in what you're saying. If he's your number one target, it's better to wait. However, the caveat to that is what happens in the meantime, because in that 4-month period, Man City could not even lose a game and already be 10 points ahead of you, 12 points ahead of you. Arsenal have got, in their fixtures, building up to January, they've got to play, I reckon they should beat us. They've got practically everyone, haven't they, up until December. I don't know, mate. Do you wait? Yes, but
Mate, listen, I see it both sides, and your opinion isn't wrong. Managers and clubs live and die by their decisions, and they could decide to wait until January, and because they don't score enough goals, they're 10 points at the top of the league. They get Toney, they start scoring goals, and some will say, see, if we'd have bought a prolific striker in the summer, we'd have won the league. However, if the following season Toney's killing it and you win the league, but the guy that everybody said should have come in the summer has a terrible season at the club he's at, you could argue, yeah, but if we'd have bought him, we might have won the league last year. We might not have done. But look what we've done this year. The problem is with football is we're all guilty of this. We assess everything in the here and now with and I did it this morning when I saw the news about Amrabat. Well, we're finished. Man United are not finished if we don't sign Amrabat. We might not do as well this season, but the idea that the club is done forever because we miss out on someone is wrong. But that's how we look at things, because we all want to win in the here and now. I personally think in this scenario with Arsenal, you wait for Ivan Toney, but you've got to get him. You can't go, we're waiting, and then he joins United or Tottenham or somebody else. But I got a feeling he wants Arsenal, especially after what he said on that podcast the other day. Like, I think he looks at Arsenal, and Arsenal they got their swag. Listen, I know Lee Gunner, I hope you're not listening because he'll get angry. They got their swagger back. There's something about the identity of the club at the minute, the fashion side of them, which I think Toney fits. They look like a match made in heaven. The swagger, there's an arrogance or a confidence, and I think a good arrogance that he has, that Arsenal have right now. The branding, the style of football, the goals, and I know that, and I think the whole match is perfection. I really do think the match is there. I hate saying that because, again, I'd like Toney at Man United, even though we're signing Rasmus, and I think he's excellent. I think there's a way you could make them both work together. I think Toney's amazing, but I see him as an Arsenal player. I really think he'll go there.
He's going to go one or two clubs. It's either going to be Arsenal or Liverpool. And I think you're right. I think he'll stay. I think I think he'll be at Liverpool. Yeah. I think if he doesn't go Arsenal, I think he'll go Liverpool.
Where's he going to play at Liverpool? They've got Darwin and Gakpo.
Yeah, but I don't know. I can see him in that Liverpool shirt, mate. He's a Liverpool fan. Loves the football club. Did you watch his documentary with what is his name? Not documentary, his podcast, when he spoke about Arsenal and Liverpool in that. But mate, him in a Spurs shirt, it's never going to happen. But him in a Spurs shirt of Maddison, mate, and Bissouma. But yeah, I think he will. The likelihood is he'll probably will be at Arsenal, but Liverpool only want Buemo. See, you think Brentford could get 150 million for both of them? Easy.
Yeah, they could. Listen, I mean, that Brentford team could get pulled apart in the next year.
And that is it Nordegaard as well, whatever his name is?
Nordegaard looks good. Like, Man United might be going in for Rico. Listen, the more I'm sitting here thinking about it, the more I'm getting excited about the idea of Rico Henry. I hope that story's true. That would be a top signing, but
yeah, man, I can see him at Arsenal. It's gonna be awful, mate. It's gonna be awful. If they get Ivan Toney and he stops doing this experimenting stuff, I think they'll win the league. If he goes back to the basics,
yeah.
Like if they had Ivan Toney right now, back to basics, none of this Kai Havertz, put him on the bench, goes back to basics, and they've got Ivan Toney, I think they'll win the league. Because they've got a vocal point.
I hear what you're saying.